Hello and welcome. In this tutorial we are going to learn how to knit this very pretty head or beanie. This is not difficult. I did it for a size about 54-56 centimeters and I used knitting needles number 4 and 2 skeins of yarn. From the second skein is a lot left. The pattern is easy. It's a 4 rows repeat pattern. I did here a big rib, then I did increases, 2 base rows, and I started with the pattern. It looks really very pretty. Look, and it's not difficult to knit this head. Let's see how we do this. The yarn that I used today is from Germany. It's 100% polyacrylic. You can use, of course, any yarn you like. One skein is 50 grams. It gives me 150 meters. The needles they are suggested are number 3 till 3.5. I use for my head knitting needles number 4. I started already with my head, and before I show you in a small example how we knit all this pattern, I want to explain you that I started for my rib with 80 stitches, and then I did 2 knit stitches, 2 purl stitches, 2 knit stitches, 2 purl stitches. The height from the rib here is 7 centimeters. Then I did increases and I started with a pattern. The rib has a height from 7 centimeters, and for all this pattern here I did 16 centimeters. So I have in total here now a height from about 23 centimeters. Let's see how we work our rib and our pattern. I started my head with 80 stitches. For my example now here I have 20 stitches. So I drop now one needle and I start with the rib. The first stitch is my edge stitch. I bring the yarn in the front side of my work and I slip the first stitch to my right needle. And now knit one stitch. From now purl 2 stitches, 1, 2, knit 2 stitches, 1, 2, and again purl 2 stitches, 1, 2, knit 2 stitches, 1, 2. Repeat this till the end of the row. Purl 2, knit 2 stitches, purl 2 stitches, knit 2 stitches. I finish the row with 1 purl stitch and I knit the edge stitch. I turn my work, and from now I'm going to work all the stitches as I see them. So I start with the edge stitch, I bring the yarn in the front side of my work and I slip the first stitch. Here I have a knit stitch, I knit the stitch. Here are 2 purl stitches, I purl the stitches. 1, 2. Here we have 2 knit stitches, I knit the stitches. 2 purl stitches, 2 knit stitches. And again 2 purl stitches, 2 knit stitches. And I repeat this till the end of the row. Purl the purl stitches and knit the knit stitches. I finish my row with 1 purl stitch and I knit the edge stitch. Turn the work And again, work all the stitches as you see them. I start again with the edge stitch. Here is a knit stitch. I knit the stitch. 2 purl stitches, 2 knit stitches, and again purl 2 stitches and knit 2 stitches, purl 2 stitches, knit 2 stitches, purl 2 stitches, knit 2. Here I have a purl stitch. I purl also this stitch and I knit again my edge stitch. And again we turn the work and we do the same what we did also in the last row. So I slip my edge stitch. Here is 1 knit stitch, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2. At the end of the row I have 1 purl stitch. I purl the stitch and I knit always my edge stitch. Continue now until you have the desired height for your rib. Once we reach the desired height for our rib, we are going to knit 1 row, and in this row we make also our increases. In every 5th stitch we do an increase. Let's do this row now together. I slip the edge stitch and I count the edge stitch as my first stitch. I knit the next stitch. This is the 2nd stitch. I knit the next stitch. This is the 3rd stitch. I knit the next stitch and this is my 4th stitch. And here in the next stitch we do the increase. Here we have the loop on the needle. I go 1 row less and here is a knit stitch. The knit stitch has 1 thread here on the right side and 1 thread here on the left side. I insert now my right needle into the right thread from the knit stitch and I pull the stitch. We have here now a new loop. I bring this loop to my left needle and I knit this loop, and this is now my 5th stitch, and I did here my first increase. Again I knit 1 stitch, 2 stitches, 3 stitches, 4 stitches, and here we make the next increase. Here is the loop on the needle. We go 1 row less. Here is the knit stitch. I insert my right needle again under the right thread and I pull the thread. Here we have again a new loop. Bring now this loop on the left needle and knit the loop. And this is our increase. We have again 5 new knit stitches. Again knit 1 stitch, the 2nd, the 3rd and the 4th stitch, and we do here again the increase. I go 1 row less under the right thread from the knit stitch. I pull this thread and I bring the loop now to the left needle and I knit this loop. This is my 5th stitch. Again knit 1 stitch, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th stitch. Here we do again the increase, 1 row less under the right thread, pull the thread and bring the loop now to the left needle and knit the loop. We have 5 knit stitches. We did our increase. 1 knit stitch, the 2nd, the 3rd, and I do the increase now here in the last stitch. So I go again 1 row less, I pull the thread and I bring the loop to the left needle and I knit the loop. This is the 4th stitch. and I knit also the last stitch. This is the 5th stitch, and I did here my increases. Turn the work, I slip again the edge stitch, and now purl all the stitches. Purl all the stitches till the end of the row. And I knit the edge stitch. So we finished here our increases. Now we are going to do 2 basic rows, and then we start with our pattern. Let's do the first base row. I slip again the edge stitch, and now knit 1 stitch and purl 1 stitch. And we repeat this till the end of the row again. Knit 1 stitch, purl 1 stitch, knit 1 stitch, purl 1 stitch. Repeat this till the end of the row. Knit 1 stitch, purl 1 stitch, and finish the row with 1 knit stitch, and we knit also the edge stitch. The second base row, I slip again the edge stitch, and now work all the stitches as you see them. So we purl the purl stitches and we knit the knit stitches. Purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1. Here's a purl stitch, we purl the stitch. Here is a knit stitch, we knit the stitch. Knit 1, purl 1, and knit the edge stitch. So now we can start with our pattern. The first pattern row. I slip again the edge stitch to the right needle, and now knit 1 stitch, yarn over and slip 1 stitch. I bring the yarn over the left needle, I go with the right needle under the yarn, and I insert my needle now into the first stitch from the left needle, and I slip both to my right needle. So I have here now my yarn over and the slip stitch. And this is the pattern in row 1. Again, knit 1 stitch, yarn over and slip 1 stitch. The yarn is over the left needle. We go with the right needle under the yarn and through the first stitch from the left needle. And we slip both to the right needle. Here is the yarn over and here the slip stitch. Knit 1 stitch, yarn over and slip 1 stitch. Knit 1 stitch, yarn over, slip 1 stitch. Repeat this till the end of the row. Knit 1 stitch, yarn over, slip 1 stitch. Knit 1 stitch, yarn over, slip 1 stitch. knit 1, yarn over, slip 1, knit 1 stitch, and we knit also the edge stitch. Row 2, I slip the edge stitch, and now knit 1 stitch. We have here purl stitch, we are going to knit this stitch. Again, yarn over and slip this stitch and the yarn over from the left needle. So the yarn is again over the left needle. I insert my right needle under the yarn, I go into the stitch and the yarn over from the left needle, and I slip all the stitches to my right needle. Here is the new yarn over, the yarn over, and the slip stitch. So we have 2 yarn overs and 1 slip stitch, and this is the pattern in row 3. Again, in row 2, knit 1 stitch, yarn over, the yarn is over the left needle, the right needle is now under the yarn, and I insert my right needle into the stitch and the yarn over from the left needle, and I slip all the stitches together to the right needle. So here is the yarn over, the second yarn over, and the stitch. Knit 1 stitch, yarn over, and we slip the stitch and the yarn over from the left needle to the right needle. Repeat this now till the end of the row. Knit 1 stitch, yarn over, and slip the stitch and the yarn over from the left needle to the right needle. Finish the row with 1 knit stitch and knit also the edge stitch. Row 3, I slip the edge stitch and now knit 1 stitch. We have here again a purl stitch. We are going to knit the stitch and purl 3 stitches together. We purl this stitch and the 2 yarn overs together. So I insert my needle into this stitch here and 2 yarn overs, and I purl them together. And again, knit 1 stitch, purl 3 stitches together, the stitch and the 2 yarn overs, purl them together, and we repeat this till the end of the row. Knit 1 stitch, purl 3 stitches together, knit 1 stitch and purl 3 stitches together. Repeat this till the end of the row. Knit 1 stitch, purl 3 stitches together, and finish the row with 1 knit stitch, and I knit again my edge stitch. Row 4. Here we are going to work all the stitches as we see them. I slip the edge stitch. Here is a purl stitch. I purl the stitch. Here is a knit stitch. I knit the stitch. And again, purl 1 stitch, knit 1 stitch, purl 1 stitch, knit 1 stitch. Repeat this till the end of the row. Knit 1 stitch, purl 1, knit 1 stitch, purl 1, and I knit again the edge stitch. And this is our pattern. Let's do this 4 rows again together. Row 1, I slip the edge stitch, and now knit 1 stitch, yarn over and slip 1 stitch to your right needle. Again, knit 1 stitch, yarn over, slip 1 stitch to your right needle. And we repeat this till the end of the row. Knit 1 stitch, slip 1 stitch. Knit 1 stitch, and I knit the edge stitch. Row 2, I slip the edge stitch, and now knit 1 stitch. We have the purl stitch here. We are going to knit the stitch. Again, yarn over and slip the stitch and the first yarn over to your right needle. Here is my new yarn over, the second yarn over and the stitch. I slip them all together to the right needle. And again, knit 1 stitch, yarn over, slip the new yarn over, the yarn over from the left needle and the stitch to your right needle. And we are going to repeat this till the end of the row. Knit 1 stitch, yarn over, slip the stitch and the yarn over to your right needle. Finish the row with 1 knit stitch, and I knit the edge stitch. Row 3, I slip again the edge stitch. Now knit 1 stitch. We have again here a purl stitch. We are going to knit the stitch, and now purl 3 stitches together. The stitch and the 2 yarn overs. These 3 stitches, purl them together. And again, knit 1 stitch, purl 3 stitches together, 2 yarn overs and the stitch. Knit 1 stitch, purl 3 stitches together. Knit 1 stitch, purl 3 stitches together. And we repeat this till the end of the row. Finish the row again with 1 knit stitch, and I knit the edge stitch. row 4. Here we are going to work every stitch as we see them again. So slip the edge stitch. Now we have here a purl stitch. I'm going to purl the stitch. Here is a knit stitch. I knit the stitch. Again, purl 1 stitch, knit 1 stitch, purl 1 stitch, knit 1 stitch. I knit 1 stitch, I purl 1 stitch, and I knit the edge stitch. And this is our pattern. We are going to repeat now this 4 rows until we have the desired height for our head. I have here now a height in total from about 23 centimeters and 99 stitches on the needle. In the next row I'm going to make 1 increase, so I will have 100 stitches, and I'm going to work 10 knit stitches, 10 purl stitches. At first, slip the edge stitch, and we count the edge stitch as our first stitch. Continue now with knit stitches. Here is the first stitch, so we have 1 stitch here. I do a knit stitch. I have now 2 stitches, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 knitting stitches. We count the edge stitch as a knit stitch. 10 knit stitches. Now 10 purl stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again 10 knit stitches, and here I make also the increase. So 1 knit stitch, 2, 3, 4, and here in the next stitch I do the increase. I knit this stitch normal, and I knit the same stitch now from the back side. So I insert my needle from the back side into the stitch, and I knit the same stitch. And here we have now 2 stitches, so in total 6 knit stitches. 7, 8, 9, 10. We did 10 knit stitches, 10 purl stitches, 10 knit stitches. Now again 10 purl stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we continue. Now we did here purl stitches, we continue with 10 knit stitches, then again 10 purl stitches, 10 knit stitches, and we repeat this until the end of the row. I finished the row, and the last stitches are the purl stitches. So I have here 10 knit stitches, and here we have the last 10 stitches. We did here purl stitches, but what I did is 9 purl stitches, and I knitted my edge stitch. And I do this because later I'm going to connect both ends together and it will look clear. So I turn my work, and from now we make decreases in every row. I slip it first the edge stitch, and here we have the knit stitches. We are going to knit the first 2 stitches together from the back side. I slip the first 2 stitches to my right needle and I take them back to the left needle. I insert my left needle here from the back side into the stitch and I bring both stitches back to the left needle. So I can work now 2 knit stitches together from the back side. I insert the needle from the back side into these 2 stitches and I knit them together. And this is my first decrease. Here we have knit stitches. We continue to knit normal these knit stitches. Here we have the purl stitches. We purl the first 2 stitches together. We insert the needle into both stitches and we purl them together. So we did again a decrease here. Here are the purl stitches. We purl normal every stitch. So here are again the knit stitches. We knit the first 2 stitches together from the back side. So I slip both stitches again to my right needle and I take them back to the left needle by inserting the left needle into the stitch from the back side. So I turn the stitches and I knit the first 2 stitches together from the back side. Here are the next knit stitches. We knit the stitches. And this is how we make our decreases. We continue now. Here we have purl stitches. We knit the first 2, we purl the first 2 stitches together, and we continue with purl stitches. Then we have here the knit stitches. We knit the first 2 stitches together from the back side. And the reason why we slip the first 2 knit stitches to the right needle is because at the end we will have only 1 stitch in every group here. So 1 knit stitch, 1 purl stitch, 1 knit stitch, 1 purl stitch. We will have lines with the stitches, and when we do this, as I showed you here with the knitting stitches, the line is very clear and beautiful. Continue now until the end of the row. I finished the row with purl stitches and my edge stitch is a knit stitch. I turn the work now, and from now we are going to repeat the last row that we did. We make in every row decreases. So I slip at first the edge stitch to my right needle, and here we have again knit stitches. I slip the first 2 stitches to the right needle and I take them back to the left needle. I insert the left needle from the back side into the stitch and I twist the stitch. Now knit the first 2 stitches together from the back side, and this is our first decrease. We have knit stitches here. We are going to knit every stitch. Here we have the purl stitches. Purl the first 2 stitches together. We have here the purl stitches, so we purl every stitch. Here are again knit stitches. I slip the first 2 stitches to my right needle and I bring them back to the left needle. Now I'm going to knit these 2 stitches from the back side together. Here are the knit stitches. I knit every stitch. And we are going to repeat only this row. So we make decreases in every row until we have at least in every group 1 stitch. So here is the group with the knit stitches. We will have at least 1 knit stitch. Here is the group with the purl stitches. Here we will have at least 1 purl stitch. Again, 1 knit stitch, 1 purl stitch. I'm going to finish this now and then I show you the next step. I finished all the decreases and I have now in every group 1 stitch. That means I started here with 10 knit stitches. Now I have only 1 knit stitch. Here the same. Here are the purl stitches. Now I have 1 purl stitch. Here the knit stitches, 1 knit stitch. Purl stitches, 1 purl stitch. Plus 2 edge stitches. In total I have now on the needle 12 stitches. And what I'm going to do now is I insert my right needle into the second stitch and I bring this stitch over the first one and I drop the stitch. Again, insert your needle into the second stitch, bring the stitch over the first one, drop the stitch. Insert the needle into the second stitch, bring the stitch over the first one, drop the stitch. And we are going to do this until we have only 1 stitch left on the needle. I completed all the decreases and I have now 1 loop on the needle. I take now a crochet hook and I insert the crochet hook into the loop. Here. And now I want to connect both ends here to finish my head or my beanie. At first, chain 2. Here is the front side and I connect both pieces here together and in front of me I have now the back side from my head. Here are the edge stitches, one side and the second side. Every edge stitch has 2 threads. One is here on the right side, one on the left side. So I insert now my hook into the first stitch here, under both threads. I take the second piece and I do here the same, into the first stitch, under both threads always. I grab the yarn, I pull through both stitches and I do a slip stitch. Here's 1 loop and here the second. I bring the second loop through the first one. And again I go to the next stitch, under both threads, also here into the next stitch, under both threads. I grab the yarn, pull through both stitches and I do a slip stitch. And this is how we connect both pieces together to finish our head or our beanie. Again, insert the hook under the next stitch and also here and do a slip stitch. And we continue to make this now until the end here of both rows. If you don't have a hook, you can sew this together, but I'm going to do this now with a hook and slip stitches. Both pieces are connected together. You can't see this, it's really very clear. And our head or beanie is now completed and I think it looks really pretty. It looks gorgeous. It's a nice pattern, easy to make, and this is how it looks here. It's really a beautiful head and I think I'm going to make this also in other colors. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I say again, thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe for more tutorials, for more knit and also crochet videos. Push the like button if you like, let a comment. Until next time. Thank you.